affecting another celebrity's family right now. Most of us know Brian Littrell as a member of the best-selling boy band, the Backstreet Boys. But when he's off stage, he's also a family man and loves spending time with his wife, Leanne, and 6-year-old son, Bailey. But recently, Bailey came down with a dangerously high fever and a suspicious rash that led doctors to diagnose him with Kawasaki syndrome. Brian Littrell is here with us now, along with his wife, Leanne, and son, Bailey. They're here in our audience. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming. So, when this first started, Bailey was having some pretty suspicious symptoms that you couldn't ignore.
No, we couldn't. We first went to the doctor because we had noticed his glands were just not normal size. I mean, they were
really big.
Massive.
And primarily in the neck?
Yes,
Okay.
like right underneath the ears. So we went and we got tested for strep throat. And it came back immediately as strep. And so, you know, we're not the parents to quickly medicate or over-medicate. I know you guys were talking about that earlier. But and Bailey is a healthy little boy. He's never been on antibiotics, and he's already 6 years old. So we were fortunate and blessed with that. But the strep turned into, we did go on amoxicillin at that point. We went out of town. We traveled to see my mom and dad in Kentucky, where I'm from originally. And he came down with this crazy high fever. And he was just lethargic. We couldn't get his fever under control. We went back to the doctor Friday, and they tested for strep. The amoxicillin, I guess, had masked the strep throat. So we were cleared of the strep, but all these ulcers started appearing in his mouth and coming to the front of his mouth.
When you start getting those ulcerations in the mouth, I'm sure the doctors became concerned about a whole host of other problems.
They did. Our pediatrician, I have to say hats off to him because he really stayed on top of it. But as the ulcers started moving towards the front and swelling the gums, they went on to what's called erythema multiforme, which is like a herpes. And they were saying it's a massive dose of viral infection that swells over the teeth. And,
Well, and it can be a reaction to drugs as well. And they might have been thinking that maybe this was secondary to the amoxicillin. You're not thinking first and foremost, oh, this is Kawasaki syndrome.
It wasn't until they got an ultrasound of the heart, right?
We had an echo of the heart. We were in the hospital. He broke out in this massive rash. We kept checking the palms of his hands and the bottoms of his feet because there's only certain rashes and certain diseases or things that affect the bottoms, the palms and the feet. Right. So we kept checking his palms, and next thing you know, we were admitted into the emergency room, and we had an echo of his heart, and his coronary artery was off the charts.
Wow. That's kind of what really the worst part of Kawasaki syndrome. It's kind of this kind of unknown syndrome that we don't really know what causes it. Is it a virus? Is it a bacteria? Is it some sort of chemical exposure? We really don't know.
Fortunately, very rare.
Very rare. Only about 1,800 kids a year get it out of how many million of us walking around. The hallmarks are fever, typically fever that lasts longer than 5 days. If you tell your pediatrician, my child has had a fever longer than 5 days, they're going to probably think, ooh, could be Kawasaki. But there's some of these other things, the rash, the peeling of the fingertips, the cracked lips, the red eyes. If you start to see a few of those symptoms all together, it very well could be Kawasaki. And, 80% of the kids that get Kawasaki, they run through the course for a few weeks and they get better, no problem.
You treat it?
Even untreated, though.
Really?
But 20% of the kids, it will affect their heart. And that's what happened to Bailey. It will cause aneurysms and swelling of the coronary arteries. And those are the arteries that kind of feed the heart. These are the ones in the older people that get the heart attacks. But, on the ultrasound, you can actually see little swellings of the coronary arteries. There's your heart. You can see it's beating along. You see the coronary arteries there. Suddenly they start swelling, and that can lead to heart attacks in small kids and heart enlargement too. And that's what can cause a long-lasting problem. If somebody has an enlarged heart, it can kind of lead to problems later in life.
But the good news is if you get the child through the acute phase and there aren't any long-term damages to the arteries supplying the heart, kids do great.
Oh, yeah.
Bailey's here today. He's been doing pretty good, right?
He's been doing great.
You want to come up here, buddy? Come on up. You want to take my chair? All right, so we're going to hang out here a little bit together, all right? So, how you feeling?
Good.
And you were joking around with us before the show, and what did you tell me? You love being on TV shows, don't you?
Yes, I do.
What do you want to tell us about Kawasaki's?
Well, I felt when I was like this, I was just like, this is the worstest day in my whole entire life.
That pretty well, that sums it up pretty good.
It does sum it up. You know, Mommy and Daddy promised you that we would be there every step of the way. And the doctors, they worked diligently to fix you. And we're blessed to have you back normal. And he just graduated to his orange belt in karate.
High five.
So Jim, typically if you had it once, it doesn't mean that it's going to come back or...
Yeah, he's not going to get this again. And that's a good thing, because it's no fun to go through.
They told us, like, he was a little more susceptible, like, the first 30 days. And we're outside of, I think, that 30 days now. But is that true?
It's kind of an inflammatory reaction inside his body, and they quelled that with the medications. So, you know, now it's been at least a month out now, I think, and he's kind of out of the woods, and he's improving. His heart vessels are shrinking, I believe, right?
Yes, they are.
So he's going to be a happy, healthy kid, right?
Right.
Yeah, buddy.
Just to sort of finalize this discussion, Jim, seizures are not associated with Kawasaki's, typically.
No.
That you would not, I don't think there's a...
Talking about Jet Travolta, right. His Kawasaki that happened 14 years ago has nothing to do with his seizures now.
I know that it was mentioned that people speculate that you're affecting the immune system somehow, and I know John Travolta said that being overly clean and using too many products to clean around his son's environment, he thinks may have affected his immune system. What do you think of that?
Germs actually help the immune system, you know,
and we've
it
talked
kind of
about this on the
exercises.
show.
It's like getting exercise the immune system.
Is that affecting us so we can't ward off infections normally?
Well, I think Kawasaki is just a great example of all of these illnesses and diseases that we deal with. We don't yet know, based on science, why all of these things happen.
Right. From a parent standpoint, I mean, they call Kawasaki's the great mimicker because it mimics a lot of other things. And you do have to stay on top of it. You have to follow, and you have to know what the next step is.
What's dangerous, Brian, is it mimics a lot of very basic general pediatric problems. They're usually on a big, strep throat, little virus in the mouth. A lot of kids get those, and it's no big deal. It's, but when it goes when it goes beyond that, and it's Kawasaki, it is a big deal.
Yes. So for all parents, be an advocate for your child because you've got to know what the next step is.
And Brian, you have a Heart Healthy Club, which emphasizes heart healthy health for families. And I want to thank you and Leanne for coming on. And Bailey, thanks for being here. You want to do me a favor? All right, so I want you to do me a favor and look at that camera and say, "Don't touch that dial, we'll be right back."
Don't touch that dial, we'll be right back.
If you want more information on Kawasaki syndrome or Brian's Foundation, go to our website at thedoctorstv.com. Coming up, could you be at risk for losing your sight and